The polar vortex that hit Michigan in February was unlike anything meteorologists had predicted. Temperatures plummeted to minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit, with wind chills reaching minus 65 degrees Fahrenheit. For the Johnson family in Flint, Michigan, the extreme weather turned their difficult life into a fight for survival. David Johnson huddled with his wife Lisa and their 3 children around a small space heater in their basement apartment, watching their breath-formed clouds in the frigid air. The building's heating system had failed 3 days ago, and their landlord couldn't afford repairs to the century-old building. 8-year-old Emma, 6-year-old Tyler, and 3-year-old Sophie were wrapped in every blanket the family owned, but still shivering uncontrollably. David had been laid off from the auto plant 6 months earlier, and Lisa's part-time job barely covered rent and food. Emergency heating repairs were booked solid for weeks. "Daddy, I'm so cold," Emma whispered, her lips blue despite layers of clothing. The local shelters were overflowing, and hotels were beyond their budget. David felt helpless watching his children suffer in conditions no family should endure. By the 4th day without heat, baby Sophie had developed a persistent cough that terrified Lisa. The toddler's breathing was labored, and her tiny hands were constantly cold despite being bundled in blankets. David knew they were facing a medical emergency, but the local hospital's emergency room was packed with hypothermia and frostbite cases. Lisa made the hardest decision of her life. She wrote a desperate plea on social media, posting a photo of her children huddled together in their freezing apartment. "Please help us," she typed with numb fingers. "My babies are freezing, and we have nowhere to go. The system has failed us, and I don't know what else to do." The post was shared hundreds of times within hours, but while it generated sympathy and a few small donations, it didn't solve their immediate crisis. David had exhausted every resource: family services, charity organizations, even the Red Cross were overwhelmed by the unprecedented number of families in similar situations across the region. That night, as temperatures dropped even further, David made a decision that went against every instinct he had. He gathered his family and prepared to take them to the emergency room, not because someone was injured, but because it was the only warm place he could guarantee his children could stay overnight. It was a decision that made him feel like he had failed as a father and provider. Lisa's social media post had traveled further than she could have imagined. It was shared by a local news reporter, then picked up by regional outlets, and eventually reached the desk of Mark Stevens, a White House aide monitoring social media for stories of Americans in crisis during the polar vortex. At 11 p.m. on Friday night, David's phone rang with a Washington, D.C. number he didn't recognize. Thinking it was another scam call, he almost didn't answer. But something made him pick up. "Mr. Johnson? This is Jennifer Walsh from President Trump's office. We've seen your wife's post about your family's situation, and the president wants to help immediately. Can you stay by your phone for the next hour?" David thought it was a cruel prank, but within 30 minutes, 3 black SUVs pulled up outside their building. Federal emergency coordinators, accompanied by local utility officials and heating contractors, came to their door. "The president sent us," the lead coordinator said simply. "We're here to fix this tonight." While the heating contractors worked to restore warmth to not just the Johnson apartment, but the entire building, the federal team arranged temporary housing at a nearby hotel for all affected families. Within 2 hours, the Johnson children were warm, fed, and sleeping peacefully in clean beds for the first time in 5 days. At midnight, President Trump called David personally. "Mr. Johnson, no American family should freeze in their own home. Your wife's courage in speaking out helped us find you. Tomorrow, we're going to make sure this never happens to your family again." The next morning brought not just warmth, but hope the Johnson family hadn't felt in months. The federal team had worked through the night, and their building now had reliable heat. But Trump's intervention went far beyond emergency repairs. A job placement specialist arrived with an offer for David, a position at a defense contractor facility that was reopening in nearby Detroit, with benefits and a salary that would allow the family to move out of their basement apartment and into stable housing. The president personally called the company's CEO, the specialist explained. You start Monday if you're interested. Lisa was connected with a child care assistance program that would allow her to pursue nursing training she had abandoned years earlier due to financial constraints. The program, part of Trump's workforce development initiative, provided full tuition coverage and childcare support during her studies. Most importantly, the children received immediate medical attention. Sophie's cough was treated by a pediatric specialist who confirmed that while serious, no permanent damage had been done. Emma and Tyler were enrolled in a tutoring program to help them catch up on school days missed during the crisis. Mr. President, David said during Trump's follow-up call that evening, I don't know how to thank you. You saved my family. Trump's response was characteristic. David, you just needed someone to give you a fair chance. That's what America is supposed to be about, helping each other succeed. The Johnson family's story became a symbol of Trump's hands-on approach to helping Americans in crisis, but more importantly, it demonstrated how quickly desperate situations could be transformed with the right intervention and resources.